everyone, and welcome back to our discussion of sulfuric acid. Now we're gonna look at some of the properties and uses of sulfuric acid. Well, sulfuric acid can be used in both the concentrated form and the diluted form. And now let's look at some of the properties of concentrated sulfuric acid. Well, it can be used as a detergent, like in laundry detergents. Also can be used as a catalyst, and a catalyst is a substance that speeds up the reaction but does not get involved. Lastly, it can be used as a dehydrating agent. And what dehydrating agents do is that they suck out the water from compounds that contain water. For example, right here, the reaction of sulfuric acid plus sugarcane, which is C12H22O11. When sulfuric acid acts with sugarcane, it gives water plus carbon. Also, let's look at the reaction of sulfuric acid with hydrated copper sulfate. Well, it's gonna give also water plus copper sulfate. Okay, so we see in both reactions right here, the water has been sucked out from the compound. Okay, now let's move on to the uses of diluted sulfuric acid. Well, the first one is fertilizers. It also can be used in car batteries. And the third was kind of interesting for me because I'm interested in paints and dyes and stuff like that, so it can be used in paints and dyes. Lastly, it can be used as a lab reagent. Okay, so these are some of the uses of concentrated sulfuric acid and diluted sulfuric acid, and you guys need to know at least 3, okay? So now let's move on to how sulfuric acid reacts with other compounds. Well, we're gonna study 3 different ones. The first one, the reaction with bases. The second one is the reaction with carbonates. And the third one is the reaction with metals. Okay, let's start. Well, when sulfuric acid, excuse me for that, guys. When sulfuric acid reacts with bases, it gives normal salts called sulfates. And when sulfuric acid reacts with carbonates, it gives salt plus carbon dioxide plus water. And when sulfuric acid reacts with metals, it gives salt plus hydrogen gas. Okay, now let's take some examples to clarify this more. Okay, when sulfuric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide, which is a base, it gives sodium sulfate plus water. Now, let's take a look at how sulfuric acid reacts with carbonates. Now, sulfuric acid reacting with sodium carbonate would give sodium sulfate plus carbon dioxide plus water. Now, let's move on to the reaction with metals. Now, pay attention to this. This is often the reaction used in the laboratory to produce hydrogen gas. So, here, sulfuric acid reacting with zinc solid would produce hydrogen gas plus zinc sulfate. Okay. Now, I just want to pinpoint something to you guys. It is very important, and often the examiner would ask about this. How do we test for the presence of sulfates? Like here, sodium sulfate and zinc sulfate. Well, how do we test? How to test the presence of sulfates. Well, the first step is by adding hydrochloric acid, a few drops of hydrochloric acid. And the second step is adding some barium nitrate, and then if a sulfate is present, then a white precipitate, and I call it PPT for simplicity, would be apparent, okay? If not, then there will be nothing. And if a white precipitate is present, then the solution will be cloudy and it would be obvious that there is a sulfate, okay? So that's it for this video. I hope now things about sulfuric acid have become more clear. And in the next video, I'm gonna solve some of the past papers that involve sulfuric acid and questions about sulfur. So stay tuned and good luck.